Welcome to Badass Banker. Actually, it's Badass Banking. I always say Badass Banker because today, especially, I'm talking to Charles Potts. Charles, how are you today?
I am awesome. I love badass bankery.
Yeah, well, you are one of them. There's no doubt about it. So, as I understand it, not too long ago, you were promoted as to SVP and Chief Innovation Officer at the ICBA, the Independent Community Bankers Association. That's a new role in the organization too. Is that right?
It is. It's an interesting new opportunity. Kevin and Rebecca and the management team saw the need to lead our innovation initiatives and tapped me and gave me a great opportunity to step in and lead these efforts.
Now, what are some of the roles that you have to play in the organization as part of that? I know one of the things we were talking offline before, you're a bit of an evangelist in the industry, which is something that I know a lot of people appreciate. Certainly I do too. So
Well,
what,
that's really at the top of the list. I mean, as an organization, the ICBA is we're celebrating our 90th anniversary as the advocates for America's community bankers, and evangelism and advocacy is at the core of who we are and what we do. And leading the innovation initiatives for the ICBA really starts with evangelism, because we've got to look at ways that we can help community banks flourish. And that's really our mission. And in the realm of innovation, that means showing them a shining new way, a shining new path forward. And to a large extent, my job is to shine light on those opportunities and capabilities and possibilities that are out there.
Yep, and that's good. And there certainly are a lot of possibilities out there. If you were to look at the community banking industry, which has really been shining, especially in light of PPP loans. I mean, just fantastic what they're doing there. I look at Incredible Bank and Jill Castilla at Citizens Edmonds, and I mean the list goes on and on and
Yeah.
on. It's
Heroic on many levels.
yeah, and these guys are the men and the women are working 24/7, and it's also the front line. We can't forget the people at the branch level that are out there
Absolutely.
fighting the fires. I mean, and it's been triage for so long, and now they're really in a very strong position to anticipate need and really
Right.
get out there in front of it. I don't think a lot of people quite understand this. The community banking industry in itself holds about $5 trillion in assets in the United States, which is a remarkable amount of money. There's 750,000, roughly, I'm rounding up probably, employed by community banks
Right.
in the USA. And if I were to take all the banks in the United States and dissect them, 99% are community banks.
That's right.
And
And
that's forgotten sometimes by the media and forgotten by maybe even fintech.
well, and look, two-thirds of all small business lending, 80% of ag lending, all comes from community banks. One out of three counties, I believe, in the United States has a community bank presence in it. And what we find and what we know is in our lifeblood. Where you find a healthy community bank, you find a healthy community, and vice versa. And it is the job creation engine, lifeblood of so many communities around the country, and that was greatly magnified during this PPP loan process, because in the end it was the community bankers that did 98%, I think, of all the loans
Yep.
came from the sub $10 billion, really sub $1 billion asset community bank marketplace. And I think one of the things that when the dust settles and the stories get rewritten and reevaluated, you can go song and verse through all these great men and women out there who rolled up their sleeves. What it really shows is businesses need to do business with bankers, not necessarily banks. And that relationship is still critically important to the livelihood and lifeblood of many businesses, business segments, and markets around this country. And that's a great foundation. That's a great asset on which we can now build innovation, right? We can take technology that heretofore we would have thought was out of the reach of a lot of community banks, because they either didn't understand it, didn't have access to it, or they have a relationship with other technology providers that somewhat inhibited their ability to get the latest and greatest technology. And our job today, my job, kind of coming back to the initial question, is really shine light on those opportunities and work to remove the barriers, work to remove the friction, work to remove the obstacles that preclude community banks from having the best and brightest solutions to serve their marketplaces that are out there. I tell people that I somewhat steal the Disney idea of Imagineering, because that's really what we're doing. We're helping the community bank marketplace reimagine or imagine a new way to engineer these solutions and capabilities to address the needs in their marketplace. And in 2020, this is not a technology constraint anymore for most of these banks. The fintechs are doing some amazing things out there, both later stage, some of the seasoned providers out there, and obviously some of the startup early stages, to make this technology more easy to use, implement, acquire, service and support. And those things all come together at a time that I think we're going to see, we are seeing an interesting renaissance in the community bank marketplace and their ability to really shine. We like to call it high tech with high touch.
Yep. Yeah. And it's funny in the industry, and I spent a little time in the banking industry as well as the credit union world. We've been talking about that since the late 1980s, high tech, high touch. And I love the fact you call it a renaissance, because I think we're at that point, right? There's an inflection point that's occurring right now. The technology is there. The appetite's there. I mean, I assume now, you spend time in fintech. Now you're in the trenches with the community bankers as their chief Imagineer, which I'm going to use as probably the headline of this episode. There could be Mickey Mouse in it. I'm not going to.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
There you go. But
I'm a big fan.
It's interesting to see the appetite by the bankers begin to really change. I'm seeing, in the past it was fintech's a foe. Now I'm seeing fintech as a potential friend, and it's people like you that are connecting those dots. And it's a consumer centric as well as a back office bank centric kind of movement that's occurring to reduce that friction, because whatever you can do to operationalize the experience more efficiently on the back end is going to translate ideally to a better front end experience, be it in branch, online, or completely digital, right?
Exactly. And look, one of the beautiful things I have inherited from this great organization, some of the kind of dip their toe in the water ideas that preceded me stepping into this role, is this accelerator program that we do, the ICBA Think Tech Accelerator Program. We run it with the Venture Center, with Wayne Miller's team in Little Rock, Arkansas. Our organization leadership said, okay, how do we start promoting innovation? And so we set about to really do two things. First is, actually three things. First is find a partner that understands how startup accelerator programs work. And I've been fortunate in my career and later part of my career to be involved with a number of incubators and accelerators, and have seen wide varieties of different models and approaches. And the Venture Center partners, the Venture Center partnership is remarkable. It's a great organization. It gives us a great foundation to use, and that was critically important as a big part of what we were doing. The other part was what we call mission-driven innovation. We just kicked off last week version 3 of this program. We've done it twice already, and we have started what will be our January cohort. And this mission we have is predicated on bankers telling us what the problems are. Bankers really identifying the areas and needs that they have. So we're not chasing, we're not shiny objects chasing a problem, looking for a a place. We're literally focused on problem identification, and then we and our partners at the Venture Center go out and with this leadership team of bankers select and vet over 250 vendors and boil it down to 10 that we select for this program. And then we apply what really is the secret sauce, the very unique thing that is the ICBA, and that is we teach them community banking.
Mm-hmm.
I told somebody, and a couple of your former cohorts and partners have had a chance to come down, and by all means, I'd love for you to come over and come visit when we kick off the program again. If I knew 5, 10, 20 years ago with any of the startups, early stage companies I had, that there was a place I could go and in a 10 to 12 week period of time, I could sit in front of 50 bankers and make a pitch.
Yeah.
And refine and fine tune and possibly build a POC or a partnership, I would have paid money to do that
big
over
money.
and over again.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. We bring bankers in every week, and these entrepreneurs pitch every day of every week and refine and fine tune and get their go-to-market strategy and their messaging and all of the other aspects of taking a business to market. We bring in the regulators, every one of the regulators. We bring in source matter experts in everything from vendor due diligence to compliance to marketing to sales to accounting. And we give this group of entrepreneurs a running start to really be mission ready to address the needs of America's community banks. And that is profoundly different. It is profoundly unique. And the proverbial, proof is in the eating of the pudding statement is coming out of this crisis, coming into the COVID crisis and the CARES Act and PPP lending. Of the 17 alumni we graduated over the last 2 years, 11 of them had real meaningful solutions and services that could be deployed by our bankers in a fraction of time, getting up and running to address the needs of the bankers, their customers, their branches, their employees, and their small business customers. And that is a remarkable thing. We built a farm team of bench strength of early stage companies who can really address the mission of our community banks. And that is just an amazing thing to witness and be part of. And we're incredibly blessed and lucky to have this program to work with.
Well, it sounds like ICBA is lucky to have you. I mean, I've known you for a while. I've kind of observed you from afar too, so I see your attitude and approach to the market. So they're quite fortunate. And I'm glad to see that the industry is thriving. And I do think they're thriving. And as you mentioned, it is a renaissance. This is we're turning the page on chapters here. We're moving into an exciting chapter.
Well, and one of the things that again proves this, and it's again, it's part of our evangelism that we're all working on right now is in many ways, don't lose sight of what you just did over the last 12 weeks.
Right.
Don't lose sight of the rapid deployment of solutions to address real issues that your small businesses and their employees were facing in the communities you serve. Don't lose sight of that. Many of these banks have been able to leapfrog 1 to 3 years worth of technology plans and accelerate that on a massive scale. And it is now informing them of ways in which they can adapt to those solutions going forward. We had the CTO of one of the banks that I know real well. We have these great conversations, and she's just a delight to get to know. And she says to me one day, she said, "Yeah, I had one of my more seasoned lenders walk in and ask me, knee deep into the PPP loan process, this little tablet thing that you gave me to use to help manage these loans, are we going to be able to keep that going forward? Can we use that for all of our other, lending practices after this over?" And she chuckled and she said, Well, of course, but then she had to kind of pause and because she's in the crucible of, of firefighting the
Yeah.
PPP loan crisis. It's like, oh, we actually need to go back and, and redo our planning and reevaluate, because we've now put in place some great tools that we can use going forward. And so now re-engineer all of their processes to take place and take advantage of that. And bankers all over this country are discovering that. I think that's just a remarkable, beautiful thing to see is in the roll up your sleeves, can do attitude. And at a time of crisis, they actually cross that chasm in many ways.
Yep.
And now when they catch their breath, they can look and go, wow, I've provisioned some things that are going to have great utility to me going forward.
Yeah. No, I think that's well said. And I think that's a fact. No doubt about it. Well, listen, Charles, it's been a pleasure. I mean, you're doing some awesome stuff.
Well, Brian, I always appreciate chatting with you.
I am glad that we and so many of your peers are so excited about what's happening in the industry right now, and across Finserv and Fintech as a whole, retail banking, commercial banking. It's going through a pivot, a renaissance, an evolution, whatever you want to call it. There's literally never been, and I've been doing this 35 years, and I think you're pretty close. This is the most exciting time
it's pretty
in
amazing.
The industry, right?
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
it really is. It's pretty amazing, and we can drag out all sorts of tech speak and wonkish stuff and talk about Moore's law and everything else that is applying to this. But the fact is, we have so many tools and ideas and solutions and capabilities at our fingertips now that allow us to, at a community bank level, truly compete with anybody anywhere. And I couldn't be happier to be right in the middle of all of that, trying to help make that happen.
So there you have it. That's Charles Potts and his valuable insight. Charles, I appreciate it. For those of you watching, make sure you like, subscribe, dislike, comment, positive, negative. We don't care. This is all about engagement. Charles, again, thank you very much. And I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Beautiful, Brian. Thank you so much. And I appreciate the time as always.
I'll see you soon.
All right. Cheers. Take care.